what's up, Internet? Bloodieknux here, the Gothic Gamer, and the resident anime king here of Level 1 Gaming. And everyone, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to Level 1 Gaming because we have a very, very special interview today. And you're going to get to meet our special guest who has made a name in the gaming industry with their product that has been growing and rising in popularity here. And we wanted to get a chance for him to speak on a lot of what's been going on here in the gaming industry. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Bryan Reedy. How's it going, Bryan? So, Bryan, for those who may not know, go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know here a little bit about you.
Well, I'm, like you said, Bryan Reedy. I am the CEO and founder of Gamer Advantage, which is really gameradvantage.com. An online eyewear company made by gamers for gamers who want to be able to sleep better. That's really what this all started with. So that's the high level of my 24/7 job.
So you really focus.
I was gonna say I'll tell you as much as you want to know, but I'll give you short, sweet answers so you can ask me for more because I can get really vocal and long-winded about this company, how it started, where we're at, where we're going. So you might have to reel me in because you'll see the vein over here start to bulge as I get like really freaking excited about
Hey, and that's what we want. That's what we want to know. So for those who really don't know, you mentioned here that where you started with Gamer Advantage is that it was a company for gamers, especially kind of focused on wanting to help them sleep better. So where did that vision come from, and what kind of guided you to found Gamer Advantage?
Yeah, so the one thing is that like I've been part of the gaming community my entire life. I've owned all the systems. I've been an active gamer on a daily basis for over 30 years. And in 2008, I was on the first ever FM video game radio show in Detroit. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's a job in gaming, like that's a thing. So this is like 14 years ago, right? And so I was like, oh my God, like I thought I was just playing Halo at home and like nobody cared. And like it turns out that there's like MLG was forming and like all this stuff was happening. So I'm like, I had found my home on this radio show and we did it for a couple years. It was pretty successful. And the station flipped to sports. And I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. That makes a lot of, even 14 years ago, it made sense to me, like video games on a sports FM station, right? And the station manager, he was in his 80s. They brought him in to do this station flip. He was famous for making FM sports stations in the country for CBS. And he literally said, your numbers are good, but video games are kind of stupid and don't really have a place on a sports station. And I was like, wow, okay. Like, that is not what I expected you to say to me in this office. So he said, we signed a new contract for hosting, it was football or baseball or whatever it was. And that was our time slot. Instead of giving us a different one, he just said, you can ride it out until that comes in. And that took a couple years to negotiate. And so we were able to ride it out for a little bit. And so we switched to podcasting, and I was like, I just wasn't making a career in it. There was no money coming in. It was difficult. I was trying to start a family. So I just went to the corporate side of things, and I was actually a banker for a long time. And then my wife, her family has been selling eyewear to eye doctors for 50 years. And so I was working at the bank. Everything was fine. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and the bank wanted me to move out of the state for a promotion. And I was kind of excited about it. But what I had told my wife when I first met her is that I wouldn't move her away from her family business. She had worked there. It was her whole life. Like, that was a big piece of her life. So instead, I went to my father-in-law and I said, hey, two options. Take your first grandchild, move to Cincinnati, or you give me a job at the family business. And he's like, yeah, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, well, then that's what we're doing because I definitely don't want you to move. So I joined the optical industry and I really just, like I do with anything, got super passionate about it. And I'm a talker. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I can get really, really passionate and very interested. And I care very personally about things I'm working on, whether it's eyewear or my car. Like, I care about it. And so I really spent a lot of time learning the industry. And I was getting calls every day to make blue light glasses for somebody. And we did it a couple times as a company. We would source eyewear, maybe a $4 or $5 frame, a $2 or $3 lens. We'd pay, so let's say we were in $10, we'd sell it for 20, they'd sell it for 100. So like as that was happening, I'm like watching these influencers and Instagram pop-up stores that were making these frames for go out and say, hey, here's these blue light glasses, like they'll cure migraines and they'll help you sleep better and blah. And I was like, that is not true. Like that is such BS. And I don't want my role in the optical industry to be the guy who makes snake oil blue light glasses for Instagram influencers. Like that's not what I want to do. And so I said, but rather than just say blue light and sleep and gaming glass, like that's not a thing. I remember Gunner, like it's clearly a thing. Like I'm gonna go research it. And so I spent a tremendous amount of time researching the topic of blue light, sleep, neurology. You know, I knew the gamer behaviors. I was a gamer who would game until 2 a.m. and then like I'm like, why do I feel like crap when I get up at 7 o'clock to go to work? Like I just can't figure it out. Like I need to stay up and game. It can't be that, right? Like, and so and I'm a type 1 diabetic. So like when I have like significant changes to my health, I see some of those like afflictions happen a little quicker with me. So like how if I don't sleep well one night, my blood sugar is much different in the morning than a night I do sleep well. And so after all this research, I was like, okay, well the frame side I got it. Like if I'm going to make glasses for the gaming community, I know exactly what they need to, how they need to fit, what they need to feel like. They got to be comfortable. They got to go under a headset. And I don't want to be called out from the other side of the room and like that guy's wearing gamer glasses. Like nobody asked for that. Nobody asked for like this ugly lens. Like like
we don't look like we're
you look at eyewear
snowboarding indoors all the time, and it's just had this awkward reflection.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe some people, yeah, totally. And maybe some people like that Al Pacino rose and yellow color lens look, but for the most part, our eyewear is supposed to complement our look. It's not supposed to define us as people. It's supposed to complement us as people. So I was like, all right, I got that frame side down. It's all about the lens. So as I'm researching the lens, I actually found a company in the United States that was started by this guy who both his grandparents had age-related macular degeneration. And he was in the optical industry for a long time. And what he was trying to figure out was like, how can I help my grandparents? And what they found is that people with AMD, when they don't sleep well, the disease is more aggressive. And basically the end result of somebody with macular degeneration is blindness long before they die. So imagine being like a grandparent and you're about to have like your first great grandchild. And because you have AMD, you can hear them, you can smell them, you can't really see them, but you're there. And like, what a horrible, like the end of your life is not seeing the world. And so he was like really dead set on that. And when they found it was attached to sleep and he knew that overexposure to light and suppression of melatonin, that's what prevented sleep, he went out and created this very specific formula to attack these external light sources at the wavelength that impact sleep at the highest level. And that's what he did for almost a decade. And he was using that. The lens was being prescribed for insomnia and anxiety and helping kids with autism. And there was like all these applications to it. And so I went up to him after he gave his speech and I said, dude, first of all, I got to try these. And like, if they work, like we need to make gaming glasses. And he's like, I don't know who you are, but God, I love how you just walked up to me after this presentation and said like, we got to do this thing. And so I tested the lenses and in about a week, I was like, holy crap. Like, I am literally sleeping better. I'm like, these things are like addicting. Like I want to wear them. And I was somebody who wore glasses from the age of 3 to 16. I eventually stopped wearing my glasses when I got into college just because I was embarrassed. And because I had an astigmatism in my right eye, my left eye became like super dominant. I almost developed what they refer to as monovision. So like my left eye is so strong that the astigmatism I have in my right eye has kind of like moved to the back as far as priority goes. So I actually don't need a prescription. I can see fine without them. But then I started wearing these and I fell in love again with wearing glasses because they were like doing something for me, where before I thought they were just a distraction. And that's where it all started. I was like, we have to do this. And I don't want to do it where I'm just buying lenses from you. Like what I want is for like my family and your family to come together and like, let's create this company together. So that's exactly what we did. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to buy your lenses and buy some frames and put them together and go try and sell them. I said, I want you to be an owner because I want to be on this journey with you in this industry of, as this new science and new data and these things come out about how light impacts sleep, that I have like a direct line to the guy who has this patent on this powder, that's exactly what that does. So like, as you evolve, I want to be there with it. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so about almost 3 years ago, we just started. He actually owned like a million different domains with the word advantage at the end of it. I don't know why. So it's like driver advantage, golfer advantage, swimmer advantage. And he's like, I own gamer advantage. And I'm like, I love it. Like, let's do it. Super straightforward. Like, that's how we came up with the name. And we went to a local college and did like an art contest with like the designers to design the logo. And we picked the one from the students that we thought was the coolest, and we paid them for it. And we like started with the logo and the name Gamer Advantage and the domain that had excellent SEO right off the rip. And we were like, let's do it. Like, the name wasn't as important to me as the mission we were on. And we started just me. It was just me. That was it. Like, that was the business. And then I learned I needed help. And now here we are, fast forward 3 years later. We have a 7,000 square foot warehouse and office space. We have 11 employees. We ship 400 to 600 packages a day out this door. And we are definitely staking our claim as the eyewear expert, the accessible. We are a very accessible company. You can reach out to us. We're vocal. Call us out. I'm here to talk about it in the gaming space. So kind of creating an authority on light and sleep and gaming.
Wow, that's one hell of a backstory. Just kind of knowing where you come from, and that this wasn't even something that you wanted to start out with. That it just kind of happened because of your wife, being so involved in optical and kind of having that crossroad and that choice in life where it came. It's just like, I can either do this or I can do what someone else is passionate about, learn, become involved in it, and then kind of seeing where it is now. And then kind of understanding all the different aspects of it as you kind of saw things popping up over time, how that really helped to kind of tie into your vision about understanding it, what it is that you want to do. And knowing the fact that you have that background in gaming, I think that's something that's absolute, because then you don't feel like just a corporate man, a face, or anything like that. You're someone who actually understands the needs, understands the wants, understands the passion that the community and the people that you're marketing to are looking for. So I think that gives a very certain accessibility with it. And then finding a partner with your partner who has the formula that you use for your lenses, kind of taking two separate families and two different backgrounds and being able to combine them into this one product, and how much y'all been able to grow over the past couple of years kind of goes to show that everyone has a little bit of a Cinderella story with everything. So kind of understanding the work that went into him coming up with this formula for blue light and everything. What kind of testing have y'all done when it comes to understanding the technology? You said that y'all been very heavily involved in the optical business, so y'all understand a lot of what optometrists and all of them kind of need, or optometrists look for when they're coming to that. So kind of understanding that, what kind of techniques or testings have y'all done to really kind of help with building y'all's product?
Yeah, so the first thing we know is there's some stuff that's already been tested a million times for us, right? So what we know is that most gamers aren't sleeping well. What we know is that disrupting your circadian rhythm is incredibly unhealthy for you. What we know is that exposing yourself to high intensity light during a time when your body's supposed to be preparing for bed is bad. And I don't think anybody's arguing that. You don't have to be an eyewear company to have that conversation. Like, too much screen time when your body's trying to get... We are biology. So if we just talk about the modern human, let's go back like 50,000 years, where like 50,000 years ago, they look just like you and I look today for the most part, right? We are awake when the sun is up. We go to sleep when the sun is down. Period. End of story. You can't manipulate that. You can't just decide one day as an organism that you're going to be awake at night and asleep during the day. It doesn't. We're not nocturnal creatures. So if you've ever known somebody to work midnights, they could work midnights for 30 years, and it only takes 1 or 2 nights to go back to sleeping at night and being awake during the day. And almost people who work midnights almost every single day struggle with being awake at night and being asleep during the day. And they've shown that long term is very bad for you. And so we know the studying around poor sleep. So then the next thing is like, well, what is it about these lights that are attacking this sleep? And this is the work the guy had done before I had even met him. And it's saying at this very specific range of nanometers, that intensity is mimicking what is coming off the sun. So what a lot of arguments we get sometimes is that the sun produces like 2 million more times that blue light than your monitor does. We have to look at your internal clock almost like a gas tank, where it's like if we're programmed biologically to the sun, that means 0.00001% more than what the sun gives us is unnatural. So the more and more we expose ourselves to that, it's not a matter of the sun gives off more. It's the matter that as humans, we are programmed for the sun's blue light to be what regulates our internal clock of melatonin suppression and creation. So now what we have are all these lights, and they mimic the sun. And so while they aren't nearly as intense as the sun, just a little bit of that can absolutely impact your circadian rhythm. So he patented a powder that is baked into the lens. So what most companies are using is what we refer to as extrapolation science, which means that we know yellow filters blue. We know that what we know is that yellow filters blue. So that means that if I make a frame with a yellow lens, it must be good for you. And that's where we draw the line, because you have no data saying that your specific lens that you made yellow resulted in these things for these people. You are just saying because yellow must block blue that this must be working. And if you'll notice with our glasses, this is the darkest lens we have available, and it is not yellow. And there's a reason it's not yellow, because it doesn't need to be. There is a specific ratio of this powder that we can put into this lens, and the powder is made up of a lot of different stuff. But primarily what it's made up is some of the natural ingredients you would find in things like the marigold flower and in carrots and in these yellow and orange textured natural things that are out there that you would have to ingest such an insane amount of them to be able to deflect blue light absorption. That you're same thing with lutein and zeaxanthin supplements. Like, there's really great things out there that if you actually looked at like how many cucumbers you need to eat to get your daily value of this nutrient that you're supposed to have, it's like unreasonable, right? So it's like you can't eat 10,000 carrots a day. So that's what this lens does. Now, what he had before we met him was many, many clinical trials, this is probably the most complicated part of our business. So in clinical trials, you can't use them unless they're published. Okay, so if they're not published, they're confidential information. So it's very common for a university to say, hey, we did this study using your glasses. And you're like, okay, cool, thanks. That doesn't give you the right to take that student or that department or that place's work and use it to sell your product. The only way you can do that is when it becomes public, when it's published in a Medscape journal or something, which one of his studies is published in a Medscape journal, but it's done under the name of the manufacturer prior to partnering with Gamer Advantage. So what we have a hard time doing is saying, oh, here's our clinical trial, aka here is all the secret information of where we get our lenses from and who we do it with. So what we do is we take pieces of that clinical trial and say, here are the data points for it. And then if I get somebody who's like, I don't believe you, you made those up, then I say sign an NDA and I'll send you the clinical trial, because I need to know that you're not going to go tell everybody else who makes my lenses or tell other competitors how we're making our lenses. So that's where like the clinical trial stuff gets complicated. But one thing I can share is that there are numerous clinical trials with this specific lens that are not public. And there are ones done. There's one that I'll share here that was done by the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, which is one of the biggest governing bodies in all of healthcare, is endocrine, and that's type 2 diabetes. And so they took this lens and they put it on young, healthy males like 18 to 30 years old and said, if we take the healthiest version of a person and put this lens on them, will they still see an impact? Because if they see an impact, then we feel confident that somebody who is struggling to sleep well is a type 2 diabetic, which means it significantly impacts their resting glucose level. What we need is type 2 diabetics to hit REM sleep, so their body is absorbing and creating insulin properly. If we do it on these young, healthy males, that gives us a baseline that if it works for them, then there's something to be said about the person who's not nearly as healthy. And it came back that the numbers were triple the melatonin production than what they were in the published trial. So instead of what we say is a 96% increase in melatonin production in 5 days, the numbers that came back from that trial were 300 and 400% increase in melatonin production. So we found almost the healthier the person, the bigger the impact the eyewear had on them to some degree, because their body was able to adjust to it quicker, like recognize the technology essentially in front of the eyes, and then all of a sudden say like, whoa, hey, I get this, I'm gonna adapt. Or somebody else, they might need to wear it a little bit longer. So not only is our company, we're working with our partner continuing to do clinical trials left and right, but what Gamer Advantage is now doing is saying, hey, we've been around long enough, instead of piggybacking on the clinical trials for our lens that you've used under your name and other applications, we're going to start doing clinical trials under the name Gamer Advantage. That is an effort that takes a significant amount of patience and time, unless you want to go pay for it. And it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do those. But rather than pay for a clinical trial, we want to continue using what we already know to be true, because that's enough for us to continue forward, and also open our arms and our doors and our hearts and say, hey, at any time somebody wants to go test the validity of our product, we are open to doing that. You are more than welcome to call us to the carpet at any time, and that's why every pair of glasses we sell has a 45-day, no questions asked refund policy. Because the best thing we can do is say, hey, why don't you just try it? And if it doesn't work for you, send it back. We'll pay for you to send it back, and we'll refund you your money. All the clinical trials in the world, the gaming community really doesn't care. Because there's a lot of things that have been clinically proven to be good for you that we absolutely ignore until the sun comes. Like it just doesn't, we just ignore it. We're like, yeah, that's cool, clinically proven that I shouldn't do this thing.
That sounds about right.
For those who don't know the random voice that you're hearing, my name is Baron Jones. I'm the communications director here at Level 1. But it's funny because you weren't kidding. Like, you answered so many questions like in one go. So kind of rolling back towards the beginning of Gamer Advantage, was it a hard sell initially?
Yeah. And people said I was crazy. They're like, first of all, I didn't need to do this. I had a great job at the family business. Like, it was fine. Like, everything, I was working with my wife every day. Like, it was cool. And then I was like, yeah, but we have to do this. Why isn't anybody doing this like this? And they're just like, well, there's no money in it, and gamers are a difficult audience. And like, every eyewear brand in the world basically has a blue light version of their eyewear. But that's it. It's just a blue light lens and a pair of glasses. That's like saying that if I give you a $30, let's go to Five Below and buy you the Booga mouse and keyboard. And then I'll say, well, it says it's good enough. And you're like, the hell it is. Like, this isn't good enough for me. This is garbage. Like, I didn't ask for this. And I don't mean to knock that. It's probably good for a 12-year-old who doesn't have any money to game. But at the end of the day, when you get into gaming and you're looking at your setup, you're not looking for cheap. You're not looking for awkward. You're not looking for placating who we are as a community. Something doesn't have to be ugly and vibrant at the same time to be called gamer. Like, it doesn't have to have RGB. It doesn't have to have like this weird purple, pink, red vibe to it every time.
It has to have the functionality and versatility that they want. I was like, if it doesn't feel good and it's not long lasting or durable like they would want, it doesn't care how it looks if it doesn't feel or handle well, right?
And it has to work. That's the thing, right?
Has to work.
I use a Logitech G Pro mouse and the G915. I think it's the 915 or whatever the series is. The keyboard, like, I love it. It's great. Would it work for somebody who's just typing Word documents? Absolutely. But would the average mouse that somebody used for typing Word documents work for me as a gamer? Absolutely not. So how can we take an average pair of glasses and just throw a blue light lens in it and say, hey, these are made for gamers? Like, yeah, name one thing about it other than the lens you put in it that doesn't have any proof that it works that makes it gamer. Are you active in the community? No, we don't even have a Twitter profile. Do you have a partnerships program? We don't even know what that is. Like, do you show up at the trade shows? Yeah, maybe if it's a trade show involved with a league that we sponsored or something like that. We're all active gamers. We're all on Steam. We're all on Xbox. We're all, we're at TwitchCon. We're at PAX. Like, we are members of this community. And I find it hard to believe that all these other brands who don't know anything about gaming are making great gaming glasses. So that's when I started ordering some of them. I'm like, these are just regular frames and usually inferior as far as material goes with blue light lenses in them. And blue light lenses that I could get for like $2. Like I know for a fact these don't work. And so I'm going to go do it right. And that was it. Like people were like, "You're crazy." Like there's a lot of negativity around it. People think it's bullshit. I'm like, the conversation isn't digital eye strain. That's not the conversation. You could stare at a wall for too long and get eye strain. Digital eye strain just means staring at a digital device for too long. You generally get eye strain because you don't blink enough. It has nothing to do with like the blue light wavelength that's coming off the screen. This is about sleep, and this is about fashion and function. This is about gamers wanting to look good, feel good, but it works. And like you said, it's durable, but like I don't feel stupid wearing it or doing it.
It doesn't look
RGB frame.
RGB frames, or like how everyone makes a joke. It's just like whenever you play an RPG, right, and you completely throw fashion and looks out the window to focus on stats, so you're gonna look absolutely stupid. You're gonna have like a crop top with a battle skirt with a frog's head on. But guess what? It's the best armor you got, so you're gonna make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing is that like not that long ago, you looked really stupid if you wore a headset on a conference call.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Like what? Like what are you wearing? What the hell is that? Like the people were embarrassed to wear headsets out in public. Bluetooth was trying to get to like as small as possible so nobody could see it in your ear. Now Apple AirPods are a statement piece. Now a nice headset, a HyperX, or I think you have Razer and you have HyperX. Like those headsets are like those are not cheap. You want people to know that like you opted for a nicer headset. Like you take this seriously, like this is nice. And if you didn't have a nice headset, you would probably elect to wear something else, right? Like you would prefer it not be noticeable unless what is noticeable is like respected in the industry, right?
Exactly.
So we kind of went under that same premise is like, I always go back to like, imagine the first guy who came out with shoes. It was like, hey, wrap this cloth around your foot. And people are like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And it's like, no, it'll prevent you from like getting cuts on your feet. Like, no, I'm good barefoot. And then now you think about it and it's like, well, shoes, like, you can't compare glasses to shoes. And it's like, I can, because we're in the beginning of a shift in behavior as a society, especially gamers. And just like hunters and gatherers were healthier because they wore shoes and reduced cuts and infections, we can be healthier because we wear glasses and reduce impact on poor sleep.
Wow, that is something else. I mean, just kind of hearing all that kind of blows me away. And you make a lot of good points. It's the fact of kind of knowing what the vision was and how you kind of approached all that really helps to understand that you were making that market for gaming because of the fact that it was no understood, because of the fact that, like you mentioned, there are people who want to take the cheap route about it. They just want to do something real quick and say it as so, but they don't want to put in the effort. So the fact that you saw that market, saw how there was a lot more that could be offered. You're active within that community and understand what they're looking for helps to only solidify how grow what you're looking at. So I think that's absolutely mind-boggling. Baron, you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, you know what really caught me is you even mentioning Bryan even mentioning frames and headphones. Like that let me, and then you even calling out what headphones we have on. So that lets me know that you're really out here like, hey, this is what the average type of headphone folks are wearing. Like what see, oh come on.
Like
yeah, look, I'm not gonna even try to do that with mine.
So it could fit under your headset and it doesn't weigh anything, and I do that as much as you want, and look at my glasses are still perfectly straight. So I put a headset on and I don't even know these are there.
If I try to do that with mine,
you see, I didn't even look. I'm not even gonna attempt. I'm not.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, I like it, and I'll get these out of the way now so I make sure I get them out. I'm like an analogies guy because I think it's easier to understand sometimes when you look at other industries and you're like, oh, yeah, actually, I never thought about that. So let's use professional football for a second. Started in the early 1900s. It wasn't until 1940 that the athletes decided to put a thin piece of leather on their head. It wasn't until the 80s that the NFL got sued for the amount of concussions that were happening to the players and not putting enough effort to protect the player's brain that they started taking concussion seriously. 80 years in the NFL until they started taking concussion seriously. 40 years just to put a thin piece of leather on their head. So like we're in the thin piece of leather on their head, and we're over here with like the 2010, 2021 version of what a helmet is. And everybody's still kind of caught into the like, no, I'd prefer not to wear a helmet. And it's like, are you sure? Because like that's really could you imagine football players not wearing a helmet? Could you imagine there was a time in hockey in the 80s where like half the 90s even where like half the hockey players were not wearing helmets and the other half the hockey players were. Like you'd have to be a total idiot to go play hockey without wearing a helmet unless you're just accepting that like there's a chance you could die instantly from a slap shot to the side of the head.
Oh yeah.
So the other one is imagine the first guy who came out with sunscreen and said, rub this white cream all over your body and it's going to protect you from the sun. And you're like, yeah, okay. You want me to rub white cream all over my body? All right, I'll put a little on my nose. That's how it started, right? Like I think back to Salute Your Shorts, if you remember the show Salute Your Shorts.
Yeah.
Counselor, he's got just a big strip of sunscreen on his nose as he's like out there, right? Like baking in the sun. I have 2 kids. Over my dead body would my little Irish, Polish, fair-skinned children go outside without SPF 50 on. Right? So it's like, we know SPF 50 is it, but imagine the time where some guy was saying, like, you need this. And like, bro, I am not putting white cream at, like, I worked out, I'm tan, like, I'm going to the beach to show off my body, and you want me to cover it up with this thing that I find ugly. So that's the yellow lens version of what we call blue light eyewear or gaming eyewear, is that ugly white cream that you're embarrassed to wear in public. If you look at our glasses and compare it to sunscreen, we're like the SPF 90 that you spray it on one time, it lasts all day and nobody knows you're wearing it, but yet you're still being protected from the sun. So those are the 2 analogies I really love. Like we always use, like, you want just as much attention as professional sports. And it's like, yeah, but look how unhealthy you are. Like when are you going to take the health side seriously? You want you want the money, you want the recognition, you want an agency to sign you. And that agency's looking at you saying, dude, in 3 years, you're going to be so unhealthy that you'll be worth $0 to us. Every sports team has sleep coaches, neurologists, psychologists, therapists, all of these things to help people work through what we think is just like no big deal. Alex Cora, the coach from the Boston Red Sox, when they won the World Series, he credited his sleep coach as one of the people. Because, like, if you look at 2 people, one guy goes out drinking the night before, let's say. He gets home at midnight, falls asleep right away, sleeps till 8 a.m. Another guy, he doesn't go out drinking at all. He just stays in his room and plays video games, but he stays up until 3 a.m. They both wake up at the same time. I present you both pitchers in the morning. Did you go out drinking last night? Yep. Did you go out drinking last night? Nope. You're starting. You're pitching. Must be better, right? Sleep coaches said, no. This guy over here reached 47 more minutes of REM sleep than this guy over here did. He's your better starting pitcher, even though he went out drinking last night. We know from his sleep that when he wakes up in the morning, he's going to perform better. That's what they're doing in sports, and we want that attention. We want that respect. We need to respect ourselves and our health to get it all the way there.
All right, that's something. That's absolutely something. And I'm glad that you brought up.
No, it's crazy because I'm finally hit 30 and I got kids and whatnot, so I don't do the all-nighters anymore. Like not work schedule and whatnot. So it's funny, I hit that point and I just attribute it to like having to pay bills and get up and go to work. But hey, I want to play this game. How about I go to bed at 11 and then I can wake up a little earlier and then I can run some more and not be, because it sucks. You'll ruin a whole day staying up till 4 a.m. Now that whole next day is basically done because you're trying to recover. And then my recovery time ain't what it used to be. And now it's almost 2 days spent trying to game for that extra 3 hours if I would have just went to sleep.
I'm going to play till 11. The next thing you know, it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And ideally, like you should, if you could go to bed at 9 and wake up at 4:30 a.m. and game from 4:30 a.m. until 9:30 when you go into work, you're likely going to be a much healthier individual because your body has already gone through all the sleep cycles by the time the sun is starting to break over the horizon at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning as the days get longer. And then all of a sudden you're up with the sun. right? And then you're starting to go to sleep when the sun goes down. And then so if you're up with the sun, you'll find that like by the time if you go to bed at 9 and you sleep till 4, let's say you fall asleep like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and you sleep till 4:30, you get like 6.5 hours of really good sleep. It sounds crazy to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. By the time 8 a.m. rolls around, you'll forget that you even got up at 4:30 in the morning. You're like, holy hell, I've lived an entire life and most people are still sleeping. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. So it's like, but we want to be on with our friends, and our friends are going to school or they have a job and they're grinding hard at night. Yeah. And because they're so passionate about gaming. They just like most other like pleasure activities when you're not a pro, like it comes with a cost. Yeah. There is an affliction. There is a price to pay for staying up and gaming late. And that's okay as long as you manage it appropriately. Just so you played basketball for 40 years, you're going to need new knees. I don't know what to tell you. You just accept that. Like, you're going to need new knees. Like,
absolutely.
And it's worth it to be a pro basketball player. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, all
small
right,
cost to pay.
Small cost, new knees. Yeah, I'm going to need them, though.
It's only just new knees. I could just get some metal implants. I'll be all right.
But they know that that's coming. Like every other sport, you know that there's that risk that when you get done, that you're going to have these things that carry along with it long after you've finished your stint. And the odds are the difference between this sport and that sport is you can play this sport your whole life. I've been playing it since I was 3 years old. I'll probably play it till the day I frickin' die. Till I can't see that TV anymore, I will be a gamer. Really isn't many other sports that you can do that.
Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely. So, and I'm glad that you mentioned earlier with your knowledge about understanding about sunscreen and everything else, because that leads us into kind of what we were wanting to really sit down and talk about was, for those who don't know, there was recently a beauty line that was launched called Reflect. And one of the biggest things that they had marketed themselves as is having blue light in their skincare to help with prevention for blue light and that. Kind of knowing your background now and kind of getting all that. Was this what was this used as a buzzword, or was it kind of more aimed at a market that may not have been hit yet? Was there actually something behind this?
Yeah, so when you look at like ultraviolet light and you look at the full range of it, that's covered under like the SPF protection factor. So essentially it's sunscreen, right? Like, so there are blue light wavelengths that are absolutely bad for your skin. There is no doubt. But if you go back and look at makeup historically, they've been putting SPF protection in makeup like for a very long time. You can go look at any of the major makeup brands, just Google it, SPF face cream. And then like it's almost a standard in most women's makeup. And that's who it's marketed to, right? And so they're saying like, hey, you're under all these lights, you're inside, you're outside, you're here, you're there, like your makeup, you shouldn't have to go put sunscreen on top of your concealer or whatever. We're going to put SPF protection into it. So SPF protection makeup is not new. The concept that it's specifically the wavelength of blue light, like the 400 to 460 70, like, you know, there's kind of a people argue kind of the ranges a little bit that are impactful, but when you look at blue light, it's part of a much bigger ultraviolet light spectrum that is definitely bad for your skin. So what they launched was essentially like an indoor sunscreen, but that is not nearly as clickbaitable as makeup that protects you from blue light. So if I put sunscreen on and sat in front of the screen, I could totally say that is a makeup that is protecting me from blue light. Like there is no lie in that. What they were saying was not true, which is what they kind of got attacked for. If you can Google the studies of artificial light impact on skin, and it's there, right? Like where there's enough to say, okay, these high intensity lights are like drying my skin out. Photographers talk a lot about it all the time. Like models under bright lights, they talk about having to take care of their skin. Like, you know, look at people who spend all day out in the sun, look at their skin, right? Like dries it out. Like that's a real big concern. So like skin hydration and SPF protection and makeup, it's like, it's not new. Placating the community using a buzzword, blue light, selling a product that probably costs 10 times more than what it should, right? Because it's like now in this makeup category, so you can like charge a premium for it. It's like this little tiny bottle of a not so sophisticated formula. But then worst of all, thinking that you can just partner with like the biggest female streamer in the space and that is going to make it successful is why I love this industry so much. Like what happened to Valkyrae launching it was that it wasn't so much the product she launched, it was the support she received from the company she did it with when shit started to hit the fan. She is not a skincare expert. She is simply an influencer who is trying to do the right thing for her community. And that's what she was convinced of by this brand, likely. Like, hey, this is a thing. Here's the studies. This is important for your community. You should be wearing this, and so should everybody else. I can believe that. I can get on board for that. But what you can't do is launch it, let everybody attack you, have no defense to it, no representation from the manufacturer, then basically blame it back on the person who made it for you, then kind of take responsibility for it. You know what I mean? It should have been like a no, screw you, this is a thing, you're not canceling me, like this is some serious shit, because that's what I would say. Like, no matter how much you put me on blast on Twitter, I'm never stopping Gamer Advantage, because your ignorance is not a reason to mess up my business plan. Like, I know what I have. She didn't know what she had. If she knew what she had, she would have been able to speak to it. Because she wasn't able to eloquently speak about what that cream can do, and nobody from the company she partnered with was there to talk about it, by the time they were ready to say something, they had been eaten alive so bad that if I was Valkyrae, I would have said, get me the hell out of this relationship. This is damaging my brand. My entire livelihood rests on my name and the content I make. And what you just told me was going to be well received by the community and an obvious thing that people needed, I just got ripped a new butthole. Like, you have to help me out. And if you're not, I got to get out of this. So now we're seeing the repercussions of the negativity around the conversation of like, blue light, not a thing. Well, okay, we can make the argument that blue light on skin is kind of a person to person thing. And the odds are that if you sat in front of a computer monitor every day for 8 hours for your whole life, that there would be this like significant health deteriorating impact on your skin. Now, if you want your skin to look beautiful and moisturized and all those things, then yeah, you need to protect it from any light. The sunlight coming in, there's light literally coming from my window right now, like shining right in my face, right? It's drying my skin out as we speak. But I'm not like worried about it. I'm more worried about making sure I sleep well, which in turn gives me healthier skin, because if I sleep better, then my cells are healthier. And if my cells are healthier, then just in general, I'm a healthier being, from how I breathe to how I think to how my skin reacts to things, all of that kind of stuff. So they just got left out, hung up to dry. Like, I feel like if we would have done that with them, we could have made it successful. I feel like today, if Gamer Advantage really wanted to, if we felt like we were experts in that category, we could successfully launch a product that is designed to protect your skin from artificial light. But my conversation would have never been blue light burns your skin. I would have never started it with that, because that is just so insulting to everybody in this industry. It's like, you didn't even give me really you just said blue light skincare cream and you expected me to buy it because like blue light's a buzzword. There's just not enough there to be successful with. And then now it just, what a waste of time for everybody. What a waste of money and time. And I feel bad for her, because now she probably has this really negative association with blue light, what I was getting at is that we have tons of massive YouTubers and massive Instagram streamers or Instagram content creators that wanted to work with us. I'm talking like 10, 15, 20 million subs, right? And they want to work with us. And they literally came back to us and said, we changed our mind. Based on what happened with Valkyrae and Addison Rae, we don't want to work with you anymore. And I'm saying, well, that's apples to oranges. I'm not selling blue light skincare cream. I'm selling a product that's designed and clinically proven to help gamers sleep better. So when I go back to them, like, how do you think your community sleeps? Well, they sleep like shit, but I'm not willing to damage my brand over putting my name next to anything with the words blue light. My response is, don't ever say blue light when you talk about Gamer Advantage. We're an eyewear company that helps gamers sleep. If you just say that, who cares what the details are of it? You don't have to say these are blue light glasses, blue blocking lenses. Like, you don't have to say that. Like 9 out of 10 people who go to the eye doctor wear prescription glasses add the blue light filter to their prescription eyewear. But do you ever, hey, I really like those glasses? Like, yeah, they're blue light glasses. Nobody does that.
And when you and since you mentioned that about going to an optometrist and getting them prescriptions, they're just called screen blocking or lens blockers now. I was like, they don't even use just blue light. They're just like, hey, do you need a screen filter? For those, they say, hey, do you work in front of computers? Do you work? Do you spend a lot of time in front of a screen? They're like, well, we have screen filters to put on the lenses and stuff like that. And people are like, yeah, sure, let's do that. I was like,
usually the first question is, how much is it? And it's like, oh, it's only $35. And you're like, I'm already spending $300. What's another $35? Okay, give it to me. And then the next question is it yellow? No, it's not yellow. It's completely clear. Oh, okay. So you're telling me for $35, nobody will notice, and I'll be protecting myself from blue light? Sweet, I'll do it. But we're raising our hand saying those AR coatings have minimal impact. It's a real sweet upsell. It's like a 40-cent application that a doctor's charging $40 or $50 or $100 for, that the Esslers of the world make for 4 cents. It's like a nothing thing for them, and the margins on it are insanity. So the difference between us and everybody else is our lens have that standard. Doesn't matter what lens you buy from us, you can't buy it without our patented powder in it. That's pretty typical of most premium brands, where it's like, you buy a Bentley, it comes with the Bentley engine. You can't choose a non-Bentley engine to save 50 grand. Like, that's how it works. So it's like, you buy Gamer Advantage, you get our at minimum baseline level of protection with our product. That doesn't make us gamer glasses. That makes us eyewear designed for gamers, by gamers, to help them sleep.
And that's a wonderful way of putting it, is that it's not just marketing it as this one single product or a niche. You have it just happens to do that, right? It's, you say first, you are an eyewear company, and I do like the way that you put that. It's just like, hey, this was an eyewear company that helps gamers. It's not focused solely on gamers, because I know that recently y'all launched a new lens, and that is helping for non-gamers in a lot of aspects. And you even mentioned too, I believe when y'all launched the suppressor lens, more clear that, hey, this is more office, because of the fact that this is for, I believe you state 4 to plus hours compared to 8 or more for the standard lenses that you'll have.
Yeah, it's kind of like, again, like there's still people out there like, I want to wear sunscreen, but I don't want to wear the most powerful because I still want a little bit of that burn. So we kind of look at it and say, like, for the people who are so freaking self-conscious over whether or not this lens has color to it, here's a solution for you. Like, get over yourself. Like, here's a clear lens. Now you don't have to explain it, because nobody's going to say it about the frame. I've never had somebody come up to me in the 3 years I've been wearing Gamer Advantage glasses and ever say, oh, are those gaming glasses? Ever. They're always like, oh, those are sweet glasses. Where'd you get those? Like, Gamer Advantage. This actually, let me tell you all about it. So it's never been that. Just like we aren't gaming right now, but you're still wearing your gaming headset. Why is that? What, are you going to go buy a cheaper headset for this conversation?
No, exactly.
Is that what you're going to go do? So we kind of look at it and say, listen, if we make this and it's good enough for a gamer, it's good enough for anybody who spends, because you have key lights, stream decks, like webcams, like it's. I have a 49-inch curved QLED desktop monitor. Like, guess what? I can read my Outlook on this like a badass. Like it, but it also will play video games in a really amazing way. And so usually things that are ultra premium can also accomplish all these things underneath it. So that's why our standard's really high. And we say, as a gamer, you might only game casually, and that's totally cool. You're totally a gamer. Like if you game twice a week with the boys, whatever, that's cool. And we still treat you like a gamer. And so if this works for the pro, like this works for you. Kind of like golf. Like everybody buys the most expensive golf clubs. Like most people suck. And it's like, well, they have a $500 driver, but they suck at golf. Well, it's like me. I have a $200
still digging
mouse.
up ditches.
But I can't play FPS worth the crap on mouse and keyboard. I'm just an old school gamer. Like, give me a controller. Like, I'll admit it. It's fine.
Hey,
like,
I'm the same way there, Brian. I was like, I believe I have a SteelSeries 650, right? The mouse right here. And this was like $180. And I'm just like, this has fast DPI and all sorts of stuff. I try to play an FPS. It's like, still suck with a keyboard. I was like, my fingers don't work. I was like, give me a controller. Give it to me.
And you were willing to spend that $180 to see if that mouse made you a little bit better. So like we're saying, without prescription, it's $100 to get our glasses. And what we're telling you is better sleep. So we're trying to keep using those analogies of like, hey, look at the investments you're making into your stuff. Like, if you ever compare me to a pair of blue light glasses on Amazon for $25, I'm going to go right back to what's the difference between a Corsair keyboard and the $5 Booga keyboard at Five Below. And if you need me to explain that to you, you're not our customer. I think it's pretty freaking obvious, right? Like,
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you mentioned earlier about when you're talking about what happened with Reflect and everything, and if you were to have done it. So understanding the fact that it was almost used as a buzzword. Blue light now has a lot of this connotation, a lot of misconceptions. If you were to have done it, if Gamer Advantage were to make that product, how do you feel that you could actually go into that with one, making it succeed, and not feeling like it was just marketed towards a specific audience? Actually understanding, no having the background that you do, understanding the science that you have, how would you go about it to, one, prevent another possible issue with this if there really is a market for this?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, like, we're not skincare experts. We are blue light experts, but we're more so eyewear and sleep focused. So what we try to do is not get too distracted. What I do know are the basics of what blue light and, again, high intensity light can do to the skin. I understand that, and that you can get that from Cleveland Clinic's website or wherever you want to go look at that. I think for me, it would have been like identifying that gamers are actually asking for this. Like, even if it is a thing, that doesn't mean you're asking for it, right? Like, it doesn't mean, like, carpal tunnel is a thing, too much time on the keyboard. It is very clear that gamers do not want to wear wrist guards. Like, period, end of story. Like, they don't want to wear, like, the little thing with the little plastic thing on the bottom that keeps your hands elevated. Like, it gets in the way of the mouse, so, like, although they probably should be wearing that to prevent carpal tunnel, they're not asking for it. And I'm not really looking to shove something down somebody's throat that they don't even have mild interest in. They are asking to sleep better, and that's why way too many gamers are supplementing melatonin because it's easy. And so they are doing those things. So when I think about the blue light skincare cream, I say, first of all, I need to know, like, what is my percentage of gamers that are actively concerned about their skin and are raising their hand and saying, I have skin issues because I spend too much time in front of the screen. Because if I'm seeing cries for help, then I can get passionate behind a product that can help somebody. But if nobody's complaining about it, everybody we serve, every survey we've ever done, it's somewhere between 85 and 95% of people report they don't sleep well. Like, that's an epidemic. That's like a serious problem. So that to me is enough majority of people to be like, I need to frickin' do something here. I haven't surveyed that. That's where I would start, is kind of like really doing my research on the community that I love so much to say, is this a thing that, like, they're worried about? Because that's how I started the eyewear. Then looking at the science and saying, okay, well, what is it about gaming that is impacting this so much? And if I had a study that said, hey, the light frequency that's given off by the Elgato key lights is, like, so strong that it can be compared to this thing, and 4 hours over 3 weeks proven by science is going to do this thing to your skin. And that is what I would have used to come out and say, look, here's the research we've done. Here's what we know is if you spend this much time every day in front of these types of lights within this period of time, this is what you're going to experience. Like, we would totally have done that first and then launched a product that explained that. And like I said, I think the conversation is around, we kind of say, like, all artificial light is bad here. Like, that's what we talk about a little bit. There are some therapy light and there is some positive spectrums of the light, but for the most part, artificial light is bad for you. We barely had electricity for like 120 years. And to pretend that we know what all of these super high intense lights are doing to us, both internally and externally, is super ignorant. Because, like, there was a time when people thought McDonald's was okay to eat every day. And you wouldn't, there was a time. Like, that's okay.
And then we had
any better.
Yeah, and then we had a film like Super Size Me, which showed the actual results of what it can do.
And that's what it takes for, and yet McDonald's still exists. And they have an amazing reputation on Twitter with the gaming industry. But, like, it is literally horrible for you. There is nothing good about it for you. Like, at all.
I mean, that is absolutely true. I mean, there's a couple of people I know that's just like, hey, man, you know what? I have a craving for McDonald's, and they go and get it, and they're like, nope, I shouldn't have gotten this. And now they call it
crap.
They're like, now I got the McGrett's right now. It's just like, I should not have gotten that.
McGrett's.
Don't get me wrong. My wife just went up north for a couple of days with the kids, and I had my first weekend at home for like the last 5 years by myself. So I was like hardcore gaming, and I was like, F it, I'm gonna be the guy that door dashes McDonald's. It was like $25 for a 10-piece nugget meal. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I ate my McDonald's, and I'm glad I did it because I hadn't had it in a while, but I felt like absolute crap afterwards. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, look at how there's brands out there that can go through these transitions of like being bad for you, but still be relevant and looked at in a positive light. Because there's the other side of it is like, well, you're choosing to enjoy that thing. And if you do it in moderation and you exercise a lot and you don't, like in moderation, McDonald's is not going to kill you. That is not the thing that's going to kill you. Nobody's gaming in moderation. So if we want to use that as an analogy, it'd be like saying, like, you think eating McDonald's every night is good for you? Absolutely not.
No.
Okay, well then can you agree that staring at a screen when you should be sleeping every single night of your life is good for you? Like, no, it's definitely not good for me. Okay, well, let's start there. You know what I mean? Like, let's start with that.
Yeah. That's a way to look at it.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Well, they do say take everything in moderation, everything will work out. But unfortunately, gamers are, as you say, passionately dedicated people. I was like, especially when you're on grinding, whether it's in RPGs or FPS, when you're trying to get that ranking up. I was like, we spend way too much time trying to perfect ourselves.
Could you imagine only having like a? Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I was gonna. Could you only imagine like a 30-minute session? Like, just for a quick, let me just boot up for 30 minutes. That I couldn't like. At minimum, it turns into an hour. At minimum.
I thought my wife was going to be like that when I finally got I finally got the Series X, so I gave my wife the other Xbox. When we first met, she liked Rocket League, and it was fun. So we got It Takes Two, and we're playing. I'm like, you want to play Overwatch? I maybe have like 700 or 800 hours in Overwatch. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty decent at it. But then I have 400 hours in Skyrim, 700 hours in Dragon Age. Like, I've done my fair share of gaming, right? Like, forget it. Like, just the story mode was like 200 hours. Like, I loved it. Favorite game of all time. But what I realized is that we would say, I'd be like, oh, she's not going to want to game a lot. Like, she never gamed. She hasn't gamed in years. And like the first night we're on Overwatch, like we started after the kids went to bed at 8. And I'm like, Catherine, it's midnight. She's like, what? She's like, it's midnight? And I'm like, yeah, we got to go to bed. Like, it's midnight. She's like, oh my God. Like, where are the 4 hours? Like, what happened? And I'm like, that's gaming. Like, like, I remember getting lost in Age of Empires for like 13 hours one day. Like, I never stood up. I never left the computer. Like, an hour went by in what felt like 5 freaking seconds when I was playing like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Age of Empires, Command and Conquer, like all of those kind of games.
Command and Conquer, Red Alert 2.
It was one of the best games ever. And you could easy sync 10 hours and it felt like 10 minutes. Yeah. So you're right. There isn't that moderation normally. Like when we think moderation, we think, okay, an hour of gaming before we go to bed twice a week, probably okay. That's not what you're doing.
That's not gonna happen.
I need at least.
I'm all raising my kid on camera.
Right? It's like at least 2 to 3 hours every night, at least 4 nights a week. That's my moderation. Minimum. Exactly.
Right. So that's like saying, I don't eat that Mr. McDonald's. I eat it in moderation. I have it 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
That is not moderation.
Yeah. I mean, when you paint it like that.
Yeah, and if you look at the studies, like what's the American Association of Ophthalmology is not going, or the Vision Council of America, they're not yet ready to endorse the specific lenses in blue light because there's so freaking many of them, and it's not their job to go out and qualify which ones work and which ones don't. So they have a different set of criteria to mitigate the screen time. And what is that criteria? Shut the effing device off. Like, it's not, when you read the websites, it's like, if you feel like this, stop doing it. Like, you shouldn't game for at least 2 hours before you go to bed. Read a book instead. You should shut the TV, put your phone away an hour before you go to bed. Don't eat an hour before. Don't watch TV. I mean, we have made little things that go on the back of our phone so we don't drop the phone on our face.
Yeah, I've done that too much.
Yeah. Serious.
What I'm saying is, this is not new. Like, everybody says what you guys are saying. Like, it's this is the community talking right now. Like, I'm not ignorant to like who we are as a community, but we need to reflect internally and not be so ignorant to like who we actually are, because it's only damaging us. Like, pretending to be healthy, pretending to care about your sleep is not really caring about it. So like, I don't want to be an I told you so guy, which is why I started this company. I wanted to be like, hey, if I could help even a little bit, if I can get you to sleep for 1 hour longer, 1 hour better, if that saves you from slipping into a depression that you otherwise would have slept in if you went another couple weeks without sleeping well, Like, that makes me feel good. Because think about somebody with anxiety. If you don't hit REM sleep, you basically wake up feeling exactly how you felt the night before. Like, you go to bed with these racing thoughts, and then you wake up in the morning, it's like the thoughts never stopped, and you don't feel like you slept. And that's because REM sleep is that time where your body's like basically taking all those icons on your desktop, which is your brain, and filing them away in the appropriate file. So if you never reach REM sleep, your body never kind of like clears itself. And so poor sleep anxiety, poor sleep depression, poor sleep cancer, poor sleep heart disease, poor sleep obesity, type 2 diabetes, you just name it. Like, it has literally been the #1 medicine since the beginning of time is sleep. And we'll run out and buy a new mattress for $2,000 if we don't think we're sleeping well.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
like, I need a new mattress. I sleep like shit. Like, bro, it's not your mattress.
I have a better route that you could try that'll save you some money.
Yeah, at
and
least
you
start
know,
with this.
and on that note, because we're hitting that time.
Sorry, I told you I get
No. Honestly, we could all keep going, but you know the internet. But where can people find Gamer Advantage? Like, let the folks know where, for those who don't know, where they can find Gamer Advantage and where they can get the product.
Yeah, so everything is Gamer Advantage. Like, our website is gameradvantage.com. Our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook, I think our TikTok might have an underscore in it. But everything is Gamer Advantage. If you Google word Gamer Advantage, the first 5 pages of Google are just going to be us. The Dexerto article is going to pop up. A review from Prima Games is going to pop up. A review from Hotspawn is going to pop up. Like, I have done enough of what we're doing now to where, like, you can find Gamer Advantage without looking very hard. Our website is the best place to start. All my handles on every platform are at Gamer Advantage. Like, people don't know. Like, I've had people on Xbox before, like, say, like, are you Gamer Advantage, like the eyewear company? I'm like, yeah, do you know who we are? Like, yeah, I have a pair of your glasses. I'm like, oh, I'm Bryan, I'm the CEO. They're like, shut up. Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Like, you're just playing Mystery Heroes and Overwatch? Like, yeah, bro, I game. Like, what do you expect? Like, that's so cool, man. They're like, Mom, I'm gaming with the CEO. Like, I'm like, yes, like, this is so much fun. So everything is at Gamer Advantage, and we are crazy accessible. You can get a link and come into our Discord and be a part of the community. You can @ me and I'm gonna answer. You can find us anywhere you type in the name Gamer Advantage, we will pop up. And what we would prefer you do is not buy it on Amazon, even though it's like kind of a necessary evil of what we do, is that you find a great creator that you really love and you use their code, because that is what we love more than anything, is working with the creators and just trying to put money back into their pocket. And if your favorite content creator doesn't have a code, like, we love to say, like, well, we'd love to talk to them. Because we have a very open kind of partnerships program where we're like not super caught up on, growth rates all the time and like how many viewers you have. Like, we're looking at your content and saying, like, are you just as dedicated to your content as we are to this business? And we don't care if that means you have one concurrent viewer. Because if you're really into this and you really care, we know you can make us great content even with 0 viewers. And we're good with that. Like, we want to support you. We want to help your grind because you're in the hardest part of content creation right now, which is making a name for yourself, and the last thing you need to be distracted by is poor sleep. So that's it. Anywhere you type Gamer Advantage, we will come up.
Well, thank you so much, Bryan. And for everyone else, you'll be able to find all the links to all of their socials down below, as well as the links to the website. Of course, if you're seeing this on the website, whenever we post the article, you'll also be able to see links to their information as well. So, Bryan, with that, I was like, thank you so much for taking the time out of us here to sit down and talk with me and Baron and really kind of let everyone here know your history and just understanding where you come from, as well as kind of helping to correct a lot of misconceptions about what's going on in the industry, as well as understanding what's happening specifically around blue light and helping to, hopefully fix some people's perceptions, help them to kind of see where the facts are coming from, where there may have been a lot of more usage in the buzzword category, as well as allowing them to be able to help better educate themselves and know what works for them and what may not work for them.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here. I really appreciate you seeing the opportunity in the Discord channel and saying, like, hey, I respect you trying to have a voice on this. Let me give you another platform to do it on. And that means a lot to me. And that it's the same thing with the Dexerto article. I thought that was so nice of Dylan to say like, hey, do you want to give an opinion on this? And then they put me on the website as blue light expert weighs in. I'm like, wow, thanks for that title. Like, you just made me an authority in a category I didn't know that you considered me an authority, and that feels really good. So I really appreciate the reaching out and knowing that like you guys were actually paying attention to like what I was saying, and that makes me want to keep saying more of it.
Absolutely. So with that being said, guys, thank you all so much for stopping by here at Level 1. Y'all already know, and more than anything, you can always start here at Level 1, and we'll see you all next time. Later, everyone.